Hi, today we are going to talk about the importance of AOA gauge. It is applicable to all airplanes, but I chose Mirage F1 as a demonstrator because of the excellent visibility and clarity of its indicator. In simple terms, it shows the angle between incoming airstream and wing's surface, not to be confused with plane's attitude, and it provides a combined feedback about plane's maneuver potential and spot within the performance envelope. Here I'm going to focus on three practical applications of all this theory. The red line on this graph shows relation between angle of attack and coefficient of lift, which is one of the factors determining the total lift of your wings. The more lift, the more weight you can suspend in the air, or more G's you can pull in a turn. Unfortunately, this comes at a cost of increased drag, the orange line, and nose-up attitude, relative to your true direction of flight. This attitude is important during landing for good runway visibility and when you have to flare to bleed off the descent rate to an acceptable level. You can't do that when already flying at critical angle of attack, which means you have to leave some AOA margin. Since lower AOA means less lift, you have to compensate for that with flying faster or having a lighter plane. Because flying faster just before landing doesn't sound reasonable, you have to be mindful of the remaining weapons and fuel and plan accordingly, to have most of them gone before landing. For Mirage F1, the perfect approach AOA is 10 degrees, and with the right landing weight, it will give you around 150 knots. Why not use the airspeed for landing? Because with a very light plane, you will fly in faster than you could have, and with a heavy plane, you will be too slow, which means in danger of crashing into the approach lights or straightaway stalling out of the sky. Even in the turn to final, keeping to AOA rather than speed will help to keep a sufficient lift margin. Just add a little bit of power and keep flying on 10 degrees of AOA. The green L/D line shows the ratio of total lift to total drag in relation to angle of attack. The top of the curve is a point where the generated lift is accompanied by the smallest possible drag. Less drag equals less fuel consumption per hour, which is why for jet engines it is the best spot to be when you need to hang in the air for the most amount of time. In other words, at the AOA corresponding to this point, you're flying the best endurance speed or loiter speed. More modern jets give you this number on one of their MFDs, but here we have to do with what we have. I did some flight tests, and it seems for Mirage F1 this happens around 6.5 degrees AOA. Since I didn't have access to all the required data, treat it and the following measurements as in the ballpark values. One data point I was able to find regarding the real F1 gave me best endurance AOA between 5.4 and 6.6 degrees. The best range speed is slightly faster than the loiter speed, and it is measured by the most distance covered with the smallest fuel burn required to do so. It can be used for taking weapons rather than external tanks, or squeezing the most from the last drops of fuel en route to your home base. I did tests for this value as well, and I got the range between 3.5 and 4.5 degrees. I usually use 4.0, and it seems to work well over long distances. This value is valid up to 30,000 feet, because of Mach effects, and above that use the provided table. The blue altitude marks the point above which you start getting diminishing returns. Let's go back to drag. Usually it's unwelcome, but there is one situation where it can be used to your benefit, and that is maintaining the best sustained turn rate in a dogfight. By modulating angle of attack, you can modulate the amount of drag, which is faster and more precise than playing with throttle. Also, who would like to reduce it in a fight anyway? Too fast? Pull on the stick a little more. Too slow? Release the stick until on speed. It's faster to take a peek at the speed and AOA color rather than observe the airspeed needle trend for a few seconds. Usually, you want to be in a green or yellow, depending on altitude as depicted on the left, as long as you are in the optimum speeds range, which is centered around 400 knots indicated. Flying at higher than sustainable AOA is useful for that extra turn rate at the expense of speed or altitude. The bigger the excursion, the bigger speed or altitude loss. Flying at lower AOA allows for regaining airspeed or altitude. Thanks for watching and see you next time.